Film is an audiovisual medium, and unlike more traditional medium of storytelling like text or pictures, film gives the artist more option in telling the story and gives way to stories with little or no dialogue, communicating the story purely of the visual and sounds. The overall mood of the film can be set by visuals alone. Top that off with an appropriate music, and you have just told the audience a story without even saying a single word. A scene with bright saturated colors and energetic music communicates to the audience that this is a happy scene, while a scene with moody blue colors and sober music sets a more serious or depressing tone. In animation, visuals, especially art style, is important in telling your story, like how we would expect a children's cartoon to have a cutesy, simplistic art style, and how a more mature film would take a more realistic art style. And before we get to it, we urge you to please watch the short film first as we will be getting into spoilers here. It's only a 10-minute video, and we promise you won't regret it.
Missing Halloween is a short silent animation film set in a small suburban neighborhood near the woods that follow two children trick-or-treating on Halloween night, or so it means. The boy, who we'll call Nick, is an eccentric young fella but doesn't seem to have any other friends, except for the girl we'll call Mary. In contrast, with Nick, Mary is a serious type of character, always having this uninterested, apathetic look in her eyes, and assumed to be the mature one of the two. It begins with Nick looking out the window, waiting for his friend to arrive on Halloween night. He sees Mary, his friend, and quickly runs outside to greet her, with his mother following suit, taking a photo of the two before they go house to house looking to trick or treat. He introduced Mary to some of the kids, but they ignore her. They continue to trick or treating, but no one is giving Mary candy. He shares his candy with her, and we flash back last Halloween when they meet. Nick, lonely and beat him up, comes home to an empty house but finds Mary sitting along the street. He looks at her candy basket to find nothing and shares one of the two candy he has with her. She opens the wrapper and Nick reads the words, "You found me," printed inside. They both return to Nick's house. Seeing his parents talking to a doctor, he playfully takes the doctor's clipboard, runs around and reads the diagnosis. He stops as he reads the words, "Imaginary friend." The doctor and his parents say that his friend isn't real, with his mom showing him the picture she took of them earlier, revealing Mary is nowhere to be seen. He protests and points to Mary, but his parents see no one. After this, they run away to the hill, the fence of woods. Mary reveals an opening in the fence and goes into the woods. Nick follows her, bear traps snapping left and right. He finally reaches Mary in a clearing. They sit next to a tree and Mary shares a candy with him. His wrapper saying, "I found you," and her saying, "You found me." They laugh and doze off. His parents and a search party forage through the woods looking for Nick, who they find along with a grim and sad discovery.
Following a traditional three-act story structure, it explores themes of friendship, loss, and discovery, shall we say. The film itself has almost no dialogue except for this one scene near the end, but instead, it solely relies on visual storytelling and musical elements to tell its narrative. The animation has the iconic Mike Dean cutesy art style, which serves as a great story element as it subverts the audience's expectation, giving them a false sense of security with the assumption that this is just a simple cutesy story about two friends trick-or-treating on a Halloween night. Together with the black and white colors, it sticks to the spooky Halloween theme, but also serves as a great foreshadowing to the darker side of the story. Cinematography, along with the musical score, is extensively used to set the tone of the scenes and even as character dialogue. For example, in the first half of the film, the tune is synced with Nick's emotion, as majority of the film is seen through his point of view, with the camera always at his eye level and the music usually having this gleeful tune to it. In the doctor scene, the music becomes heavy and somber, reflecting what Nick felt at the time. When the camera switches to his parents' point of view, the scene is framed from a higher position looking down, with Nick appearing smaller than he usually does, which can be interpreted as a visual metaphor on how his parents views his revelation to him as just something minor. When the camera switches back to Nick's point of view, the parents and the doctor is center framed but at a distance, signifying how detached/distant they are from how heavy this is to him. The use of musical score as dialogue in the film is also evident in the lead-up for the climax. As Mary stands up, the tune becomes higher, not only serving as a good lead-up to the next scene, but also signifying Mary's dialogue, as the tune helps the viewers switch their attention to her. In the climax of the film is where Mike Innes' talent for cinematography and musical composition shines most. Visually, the most intense scene in the film, however, it did not have the suspenseful, energetic music typical to such scenes. Instead, it had the somber tune of a violin paired up with heavy bell tolls. Despite this, the audience is still put on edge, as each bell toll is synced to the snapping of the bear traps, giving them more weight with the louder somber tunes of the violin, giving this hopeless feeling as if death is imminent for the two. The music in this scene reflects the internal dialogue of Nick, the violin signifying his fears of losing his only friend, and the bell toll signifying his fear of death. The somber tunes of the violin are louder, but the bell tolls are still noticeable each time they played, which communicates that while his fears of losing Mary is more intense than his fear of death, he's still very much afraid to die. The scene ends with the camera quickly looking down at the bear trap, fading to white, and the final bell toll is heard. This would have been a good enough ending to a seemingly wholesome story about a lonely boy meeting his untimely demise caused by his overactive imagination. However, the final scene negates all of that. Unlike the rest of the film, the final scene is devoid of music, giving the serious tone to it, but is set up to be a comedic one, which again subverts the audience's expectations and making the final reveal that much more unexpected, revealing that the story of the film is actually that of a lonely boy finding who was once lost but now found. Compared to his earlier work Draw With Me, which had this angsty, edgy teen vibe to it, Missing Halloween shows just how much he has grown as a storyteller. From the plot, animation, cinematography, and sound design, all we see in Missing Halloween is growth. In this short analysis, we haven't even started addressing the countless details hidden throughout the short film. And while one can argue that the final scene is unnecessarily macabre and served only to provide a shock value, unlike his previous work Draw With Me, while angsty and edgy, its macabre elements had a clear-cut purpose in the story. However, it does not take anything away from it. A macabre tragedy with multiple twists and turns, constantly hinting towards the grim ending while also constantly misdirecting the viewers, making the final reveal that much more unexpected and impactful. A classic Mike Eno animation and his best original work to date. Thank you for listening and have a great day.